So I know about pivot, I know about street,
You know
I know
it.
about road.
You got it.
So when you are part of that system and you see that it's just the same pimp, just got a different suit,
Big time.
you know.
Big time.
And when you weigh up the different things, like you said, religion is hard. I put religion in a box now where it's hard. It's a lot of I am here, you're not here. You can never get to be as good as me. I'm holy. I can talk to God.
Exactly.
So you're still dealing with a capitalistic kind of system.
Correct.
Which is Ross.
That's right.
And
That's right.
you know, so that awakening is just happening for us
Okay.
and for our families. So
Okay.
whatever I take in, like I said, the thing that has resonated the most for me is when I hear something, if it resonates with me, I'm going to take that meat.
Correct.
Bones, I ain't eating that raw. So you can try and tell me about cooking
Right.
anymore
And-
and contra.
But that's good because that's part of the process of creating your own path.
So I'm glad to hear that because
Right.
when I've heard different things and it's like, I ain't ready to put that one on pause, but let's go over to here. This one's
Right.
where I want to get a little bit more.
And I'm
of a
glad.
diet.
And I'm glad you said that. Let's dig a little deeper on that part. I'm glad you said that. That's what this whole thing is about. There is no right or wrong way. Let's establish that. I'm glad you said that. And obviously, you having that experience in the religion, and pretty much I think majority of us came up through that to some shape, form, or fashion. That's the reason why a lot of us don't grow to our potential, is because we get caught up in that system of, like you said, you have to do it this way only. There's that hierarchy. I'm special. I speak to the Creator. You're here. There's always that.
It's a strain.
Correct.
It's a strain. It's a pull. It's a pain. And
What is
pain indicates something's wrong.
correct?
So
Correct. But that change is going to come about one way or the other. What happened, where you're at now, is going to happen regardless, because we're always going to evolve into what we're destined to be.
Right.
So it's not genetically encoded in all of our DNA to stay in that system of faith, belief, and following, because genetically in your DNA, you're destined to be greater than that. And all of us have that potential in the room. Some people just don't tap into it. Some people, unfortunately, are comfortable staying in that crutch system of belief and being up under somebody and following because it's convenient, unfortunately. You obviously, as you stated, you obviously recognized a lot of things that just didn't sit right with you. You sensed it, you saw it, you experienced it. So that was the great awakening or the great change for you. So now, like, as you're progressing on your path, what is your background? You from Jamaica?
I am Cuban Jamaican, born in Dutty.
Okay.
So
Are you familiar with Obia?
Obia?
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me growing up as a child, it was like eat that raw alone.
Okay.
You don't understand it.
There's a similarity that deals with the deity of Shango. There's a similarity to that with some of the West African tradition systems. Now you're going to find this out now that you've awakened and you're taking that step. You're going to find out everything they told you to stay away from was the stuff you should have investigated. I'm telling you that. You're going to find that out. Everything they told us that was evil, spiritual magic, ancestral worship.
I understand the control of any organization
Right.
system. I understand the control even of our school education system and just systems period.
Right.
In my working environments, I've worked corporate America, I've worked systems.
Right.
That's what I recognize. So when I see a system, I just need to know how it works.
Correct. So, again, when you're at this point now, I mean, this is just a suggestion. I would start accessing your family lineage. I would start propagating relatives that have ascended and passed on, because you're going to find out when you start accessing their spirits and communicating with them, they can kind of open other doorways to you, knowledge, information, if that's the path you so-called choose. You got to kind of just go with your intuition. I don't know what your spiritual practices are now. I don't know if you practice meditation. I don't know if they're yoga. I don't know. Okay, so affirmations are a great thing because they affirm what we're trying to accomplish. As long as you go to those affirmations, not praying to some spooky. I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm just speaking in general. Sometimes people practice affirmations, but they still do it in a monotheistic sense, as if they're praying to some god in the sky. Affirmations are to affirm something either you get correct, something within, or what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And that's the beauty of affirmations. So it seems like you've now created some form of a system. Now, whether you get to the point or accept the aspect, again, I can't confirm that for you. You'll find up as you start tapping in and creating your own spiritual path, you're going to find your vibrations, your frequencies, and you're going to open yourself up to what, I'm going to use a term we can all relate to, the spiritual realm. And you might find yourself being taken in your sleep You might start astrally traveling at will without you even, being able to do anything to control it. Because what happens is as we raise our vibration and frequency up, we start to open ourselves to what we call the fourth density and beyond. Now, when I say the spiritual planes, I want to be clear on this. Some people, and I'm speaking in general, some people kind of look at it as if it's above. That's not what it is. It's all interwoven around you. It's just breaking that, breaking that illusion or matrix or that vibrational field where you can access it at will. And then you'll find when you do that, your great-grandfather might start coming through randomly and just start communicating with you. Because once we are able to tap into that, there's no limit what we can accomplish, what we can communicate with. And you'll find that they'll have a lot of messages for you, if that's the route that's opened up to you. Now, subconsciously, if that's not a path you decide to go, that may not be your path. I can only speak on my own personal path. I'm just telling you from my experiences, and by all means, I'm not telling anybody to accept any of my personal experience, because it's just that, it's personal. But I'm using it as an example in relation to the question that we're discussing. So, it seems to me that you're on the beginning stages, you've started something already. And I would kind of just tell you, I always tell people when they're coming out of something, especially if it's something that they were in for so many years, be it any of those type of religions, patience is the hardest school to master. Always be patient, take it step by step. But the most powerful thing you said, if you go by that guideline, whatever resonates with you, go with it. Whatever don't, just toss it to the side. You'll find out you'll save yourself a lot of agony, a lot of nonsense, and a lot of garbage. You'll find out that you'll progress on that path a lot faster if you live by that rule. And that's the key thing. And that's why I said earlier, you're going to find out some of the stuff you're going to study and read, like you say, you're just like, I don't really need this. I'm not feeling this. It doesn't resonate with my spirit. Then there's going to be other stuff you're going to be like, man, I'm feeling it. Bam, this hit me hard. Blah, blah. That's how you create your own spiritual path. So again, there is no right or wrong way. There is no particular method or order of doing it. You kind of got to follow your intuition, your higher self, your superconscious, because remember, there's a lot of things we already know that we're just not consciously aware of. It's logged in our subconscious, so we just need to access it. Because this is really how it works. You can call it your superconscious, then you have your subconscious and your conscious. The superconscious is what you want to access because that opens the gateway to everything. Once you access the superconscious, then you can facilitate what the subconscious feeds the conscious. Because everything you do consciously is fed by the subconscious mind, whether you're aware of it or not. Now, another thing, the reason why I suggested you might want to investigate in the area of genealogy and DNA. Once you are able to pinpoint who you are genetically, you should know your blood type. Very important. You should know your at least 4 to 6 generations back, because you'll be surprised what you find. That will explain why you might have a lot of characteristics, personality, behaviors, why you like certain foods. Let me give you an example, and I use this example a lot. I had a dude that sat in my class. I'm going back like 20 years ago. And this was a Jamaican dude, and he was part Irish. And he couldn't understand why he liked rock music. You understand? Because he's thinking we're programmed, he's thinking because he's Jamaican that he's not supposed to like rock music. So he said every time rock music comes on, he can't help it. There's something in it, that is his foot. And we hear that as melanated people. You say that to blacks, Latinos, people of color, like, that's not the norm. So I told him, I said, well, at the time he didn't know. He suspected from what he was told that on his mother's side he had some Irish ancestors. So I said, I guarantee if you go look into it, and he was describing foods that he liked, he couldn't understand why he had some of these cravings, etc. I said, I guarantee you that some of the personalities of your ancestors coming through, working through you, and you're just not educated on it. So he kind of was beating himself up. Like he was kind of like judging himself, which I thought was crazy. I said, why don't you educate yourself? Be proactive instead of reactive. So anyway, saw him again about 6-7 weeks later. He went and did a genealogy thing, did the whole DNA, the haplogroup, the whole 9, and he found out he had strong Celtic and Irish roots on his mother's side. I said, well, this is why, this is going to explain some of your behaviors, some of your likes, some of your dislikes. And then the blood type is important because O positive, O negative, which is the oldest blood on the planet, and you'll find most people that have O positive, O negative blood go back to when we talk about a lot of those pygmies, Watusis, some of the original beings that we give these titles to on the planet. That's the oldest blood type. You'll find they're more aggressive people. They were carnivorous people. They needed high levels of protein, and they were meat eaters. The other thing you should educate yourself on is diet. Being a vegetarian is not for everybody. Me and him have these conversations all the time. This is a good conversation me and him have. You're going to find people that have O positive blood, they're usually the ones that struggle with being a vegan because it's not in their nature. They need high levels of protein. And it's not the same substituting the type of protein that they need that you can get from vegetables and plants. It's not the same thing. Whereas A and B type blood people, they tend to be the more natural vegans because their ancestors come from herbivorous lineage. So they were more plant eaters. They weren't aggressive. So I say when it comes to diet, ancestry, and genealogy, you should educate yourself on your blood type for that particular reason. Right.
Is that why an O negative will want to sleep on their stomach?
Say it again, O negative?
They want to sleep on their stomach?
Yes. I've heard that before, yes. They say that there's a connection with that for O negative people sleeping on the stomach. I have heard that. Now, I'm O positive. I can't confirm that.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've heard other O negative people tell me that. So I would say there's a possibility there's some truth to that.
It's funny you just said about the genealogy because my grandfather has told me that I'm very much like his grandmother.
Okay.
And I probably only knew her for a year of my life.
Right.
But she was from Scotland originally.
Okay.
And a lot of and I remember we were talking one day and he said, and my aunts too said you're just like grandmother, you know. And as a young child, there's no way I could have remember anything.
Correct.
But there's a lot of things that I like to do that you talked about the guy, you know, beating himself up. I don't beat up myself.
Well, because you've embraced it. Yeah.
This is, you know, how I am. So
And-
that's a beautiful thing.
And here's a beautiful thing. Like you said, you might have only known your grandmother for 1 year. You're going to find this happens a lot. When people start making that spiritual connection to their ancestors, sometimes a great-great-grandmother will communicate with you that you've never met before. Because you've opened yourself up because, like you said, there's a lot of similarities and spiritual connections there. So I know a lot of people that as they go on their spiritual path, their great-great-grandparents who they never met start communicating with them. And they're like, I've never met them. Why are they communicating with me? Because there's a connection there. That's why. And you're going to find that happens randomly. You'll start to see, I know people, you'll go through a lot of sleep paralysis in the beginning where you, in a stage of where you start to actually travel, but you're being pressed down on the bed. You might see images of certain entities at your bedside as you open yourself up. All these different spiritual experiences will start happening as that spiritual path starts to open up. And I always tell people, especially if you're in the beginning stages, you should keep a diary. You should always write down your experiences because sometimes you have an experience today and 3 months later, a year later, you might have something that explains or connects, and then you can go, wait a minute, hold on, let me go back. I remember something similar to that last year or 3 months. That's usually how they work. And why? There's no specific explanation, but you have to get out of your mind. This is not how they taught us in religion, like there's some God and poof, he snaps his finger and everything is, that's not how this works. Because that's the illusion that they forced upon us and thought was a reality. And you really start to embrace, again, you start to accept the fact. The biggest stumbling block is to get over. I'm not saying per se for us in here, but in talking with people that are still embedded in that, this good and bad shit. It's tough for them to get out of it. This God devil stuff. See, here's the thing, and I make them. You can throw this at them, and I always use this. I said, let me ask you a question. Why is it when something good happens, everybody's like, praise God, praise the Lord, right? When something bad happens, I don't see nobody praising God. You know what I mean? You ever see anybody lose a boxing match and go, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for getting my ass whooped? You never hear that. You know, somebody dies in a plane crash, they're like, oh, thank God, God looked out for me, saved me. But that's the same God that killed everybody else in the plane. Now, I'm bringing that up for this reason. Why am I bringing that up? Real simple. If you go into their